Hello everyone, this is Anil Kumar. So in this video, we will actually see the another aspect that is called as a exception aspect. So let me define a class. Okay, the class name I would call it as a exception aspect. Okay, exception uh, aspect. So all the kind of exceptions we can redirect to this particular exception aspect. Okay, and yeah, this is a normal class only, but we will make it as an aspect, right? So by actually just mentioning it as an aspect, is there any kind of error here? Okay, aspect. So let me import this particular package, and also it is a component. I need to register as a component. Otherwise, see, only the spring components, registered components only can be enabled as an aspects. That is the fundamental rule, not a normal Java class. Okay, so I need to register this one as a component. So what I will do is, in the exception related, so for the logging we have a spring AOP has provided before advice, point cut advice, pattern. These are all kind of you can google it or whatever, you can see it. These are the ready made available patterns and the kind of aspects that spring AOP has provided. Similarly, for exception, okay, uh, we have some certain patterns, some advice has been given for uh, handling the exception related aspects. So let me define a particular method, say maybe public void similar method. Okay, get what is the logging aspect that we have defined in the similar way, maybe a exception aspect. Okay, exception aspect. So I'm defining a simple, any aspect you can define it. Okay, in this aspect, is there any error? I think it has gone. Okay, so in this, there is a advice called after throwing. Okay, okay, this is not a kind of new thing I have defined. I need to import it, right? This is already in AOP been defined. Okay, I'm just reusing the syntax for after throwing. I need to mention one point cut. Okay, the point cut is, okay, point cut is nothing but a pattern point cut, where I would define the point cut as, I think this is a capital P, right? So point cut. Let me try to identify if anything, any suggestion it can able to give. I don't think it is giving any suggestion here. So point cut. So point cut exec execution. Okay, the for execution of all the kind of okay, execution of all the kind of patterns the similar way, we can actually take this point cut as well. Okay, the point cut of execution of all the kind of get methods. Okay, I can just reuse that point cut, and I will also define as like point cut equal to something called as this one. Okay, so let me import this. I think it is okay, probably, and it is not importing somehow. Okay, uh, yeah, I think probably it's okay. Let me save it. Let me see the kind of like syntax what it is being created for a point cut. So we have an exception aspect already been defined. Let me paste that particular syntax for you. I will try to explain it here, uh, because the syntax is kind of like a tricky one. So the point cut what I am defining here is an execution of all the kind of getter methods to catch that exception, and the throwing aspect is maybe anything you can define, okay, the ex. So what you will do is you will simply print the exception, okay. The it would take an argument called catch all errors or whatever you can define ex dot print stack trace, okay. If you ex dot print a stack trace, if you can able to the exceptions you can able to invoke it, it would actually try to get all the kind of errors it would throw, okay. So this is how it should be implemented, ex dot yeah, I think this is the name is exam ex dot print stack trace. So this is how the exception see can be generated, but where is that exception? So the exception is we need to generate that exception. So where that exception I need to have a like a get name, okay. In the get name what I will do is I will try to generate a one exception. I will just name like if how to generate an exception. If name dot equals to, okay, maybe some name I have set, okay, object one I have set, okay. If name some actually a condition, okay. If name dot equals to throw new, I'm just throwing an exception, okay. Throwing an exception, new, throw new exception, some exception occurred, exception occurred, okay. This is what I'm throwing, something I'm throwing, okay. Probably I need to import this particular, yeah, I'm just throwing, okay. It's a kind of like a user defined exception I'm throwing here to in order to our aspect is working or not. That's what I'm trying to test here. Yeah. Probably what I need to do here is uh, rectangle dot get name, right? So before that I need to set it, right? So what it is saying, it is throwing an exception. Probably let me throw this signature. uh, Here I am not setting anything. Probably whatever the exception occurs, we will see. We will try to capture. Probably it will get a null pointer exception. Okay. I don't know what kind of exception it will throw, but I just want to print that. Okay. But nowhere I am printing that exception in my business class. I'm just throwing an exception. Nowhere I am actually printing. So let me run this application and. Yeah, logging, it's okay logging even if it is printed. Let me run what happens, we will see. An exception should occur, the null pointer exception. uh, if you see java.lang.null pointer exception, it has occurred and our aspect is able to capture. But how come you are able to identify whether our exception aspect being actually invoked or not, okay. Because there is no way you have printed. Probably let me print an SOP here, okay, to actually get it printed or not. SOP, okay, and I'm printing exception aspect being invoked, okay. Exception aspect invoked, okay. And also I will try to comment the print stack trace and all, and because I'm just disabling my aspect. I'm just uh, printed what it's been invoked or not. Let me run this application whether it is been successfully invoked our aspect or not. So if you see exception aspect being invoked, java.lang.null pointer exception, because it is a runtime exception, even you are not print stack trace also it would get invoked. So I will try to generate maybe not a null pointer exception, probably an user defined exception. What I will do is I will try to set that. Okay, r1 dot set name. Okay, set name. What is the set name? I need to match, that is object 1, right? So then only it would come to our catch throw block object 1. It would actually matches, then it would able to throw the exception occurred, then we can able to uh, invoke our exception. Even if it is not there, I think there is a null pointer exception earlier. So probably I am trying to avoid the null pointer exception. I will try to print my user defined exception called exception occurred. So let me run this particular application object one where I have set and been invoked by get. So there is a exception aspect being invoked, exception occurred, whatever have been thrown, that is been printed over here. This is how, see, there is no single line of code for exception handling. I haven't done any exception handling, I'm just throwing the exception, but all the kind of exception handling can be done in exception aspects. Like this is another cross-cutting concern. We have seen the logging aspect, we have seen the exception aspect. Like that, we can implement all the kind of aspects by externalizing from the business logic. That is the basic concept of AOP. Probably I will pause this particular AOP here. We won't deal with much extensive AOP related because our focus is basically on the Spring framework. So hope, I think you would get something out of like what is AOP concept, how we can implement the aspects, point cuts and all, by implementing the exception aspects and also logging aspects. Thanks for watching my video, and if you like it, please click on the like button and do subscribe.